What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bringing incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is an educator, a mental health therapist, and also the author of Than Sourie, 5 Steps to Deepen Your Apology After You Have Committed Infidelity. Please welcome Dr. Deb Miller. Dr. Deb, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Deanna. It's good to be here.
Good to have you here. So I love the title of the book, and I shared I have a lot of experience with that myself. And one committing and one being committed on. So let's kind of talk about the build up to the book. I want to know, what was your inspiration and why infidelity?
Well, I'm a therapist working with couples trying to heal, and most of the time it was over somebody wandered or had an affair. And traditionally, stereotypically, the couple would come in, sit down. The person that was cheated on had a lot of need to just tell their story, vent, cry, angry, point, scream, yell, whatever they needed to do. And they do need to do that. But meanwhile, the person that was cheated, the cheater, would be silent, head down, and, the why question, why'd you do it? And they just basically would say, I don't know. Why are we still talking about it? Can we talk about something else? I promise I won't do it again. In other words, they kept trying to push it away. Yeah. And I thought, well, this is not going to go anywhere. The healing of this couple, if there is going to be some, has to be two-sided.
Right.
So I looked at resources, and there were tons of resources for the person that had been violated. And that's, again, appropriate. But there was very few for the person who actually stepped over the line and committed infidelity. And so I thought, well, this is a gap in the support materials for people trying to be different, how to change, how to heal. So that's where that came from.
I think that it takes two. That the person that didn't do the cheating is just as guilty as the person that did the cheating. Because there's always something that's lacking in a relationship. I speak from experience. So I've been cheated on and I have cheated. And so there's always something missing. There's a missing piece that's happening in a relationship, in a marriage, that's not either being worked on or discussed or whatever, that is causing someone to wander, and it's two-sided.
It is, but the focus at that moment, when someone comes to my office, can't be on, well, tell me about your marriage and let me hear what, both of you have contributed to this problem. Because at the moment, it's this crisis of, oh my gosh, you cheated. And, culturally, there's this red A, this adulterers, they just are so easy to be the one that absorbs all the guilt. And so there's this process of healing. But the first step has to be for the person who stepped over the line, whether they violated their moral code, but they kept a secret. And certainly that's the focus, is how do you recognize that this was not part of your contract as a couple? And that's where the hurt is. And certainly it will lead to a discussion about what was missing. Yeah. Because let that person talk about what it was like for them to be in an affair is really important. Because honestly, there's some positive things that come out of people being in affairs. They're having fun, they're feeling validated, they're feeling heard, they're feeling sexual. And so you want them to be able to process that with someone, and they can't process that with their significant other. It's not healthy, but they need to process it. But there's this shame game that goes on, and they definitely, both parties typically aren't comfortable talking to other people about what happened, for a variety of reasons. They're embarrassed. They don't want anybody to be labeled. They don't want their kids to know, so it's this secret that gets on top, layered and layered and layered, that compounds the situation. And so it's so key that they talk and say it out loud.
Yeah. In your experience, do you find how many couples tend to work through those issues and make their marriage better versus those that have not?
And we have terrible statistics on that, honestly, and I even look for statistics like how many people cheat. And, you see anything from 20 to 60% of people cheat. I mean, it's really impossible. All I know is the work in my office.
Yeah.
When people, there's usually the hurt party makes a decision to let go and forgive, and then they can heal. But honestly, once they get to that point, I don't often see them. They're off on their own. They want to, try to push it away. And that's the challenge, to accept that this is kind of a lifelong healing, how to recognize that even though they did it 20 years ago, just for you, even to look at what happened and why, and how have you grown from it? How are you different now in relationships? It's important to dissect it, to analyze it.
Yeah. And so, I want to understand, like, what are, you say 5 steps to deepen your apology after you've committed an infidelity. Can you share maybe one with us, what that means?
Well, the main one is empathy. So much of, we have such strong defense mechanisms. We're all going to look in the mirror and feel good about ourselves.
Right.
And so for us to totally take responsibility for whatever pain we've inflicted on the other person, you have to have empathy. And empathy means you can sense what it's like to be in the other person's shoes.
Yeah.
What does it feel like? And what are they experiencing? And not only sense it, feel it, but you have to be able to express it. So there's a lot of exercise about how to say, dang, you're really ticked off at me. You hate me right now because I, went behind your back and was with another person.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you need to learn the words to say it. So that's part of this main step of empathy.
Yeah.
Not only for the person that you hurt, that you violated, who you cheated on, but yourself and your affair partner.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many people affected. And then there's some people that are affected that don't even know it's happened. There might be some unrecognizable, invisible effects on kids, friends, extended family members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what my late husband, I was married before, he passed away about 8 years ago. And so when I first got involved with him, he was very big into steroids, and that's basically what killed him. He kept taking steroids, needed his 3rd kidney transplant. I always thought that it was like the steroids that kind of messed him up. I firmly believe that. And I still, hold firm on that today. But when we first started dating, he did not tell me that there was anybody else in the picture. And so, I started dating him, believing him. I remember one time I had gotten ready, I was young. He was 12 years older than me, and he was going to take me on this cruise. And so I had all my bags packed, ready to go. He didn't show up. I was like, okay, obviously something's going on here. And I've come to find out that he had a fiance. He was divorced with 4 daughters, and he had a fiance. He actually left his ex-wife for the nanny. And I found out all this stuff after the fact, after I fell in love with him and all this crazy stuff. And it was pretty traumatic. The first couple of years of our dating life was very traumatic. I ended up changing my phone number. I had gotten into another relationship. I was just trying to move on with my life, but we couldn't seem to get apart, and he wouldn't let me go. He ended up going to sex and love addiction rehab, because that's what he said he had. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I understand it's a thing. I do understand it's a thing. But even after we had gotten married many years later, he had 2 years after we got married, he had another affair with the nanny. And I sat him down. I knew something was up. A woman always knows.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Unless you're one that wants to turn the other cheek and not deal with it. I'm not one of those women. I'm going to
say it out loud.
We're gonna talk about it. I sat him down. We went grocery shopping, got back. I sat him down at the kitchen table, and I said, "What's going on?" I said, "Are you talking to somebody else?" He lied to my face. So then I proceeded the next day, because we owned our businesses together, and I pulled his phone records. Sure enough, I'm finding all these numbers of these women that I know that he's been involved with. And so it was an all-out blowout, and then we ended up going to counseling and just trying to work things out. I can forgive and move on. I didn't really hold on to that. But as fast forward 10 years or whatever it was, as his health declined, and I kept begging him to stop the steroids, stop. He was on dialysis the last 2.5 years of his life. I was administering it. He was it was like living with a shell of a person. He was still injecting, and we would fight over that. You have daughters, what about me? And so I was living with a ghost. And so I hadn't had any intimacy for 8 months. And next thing you know, I'm getting hit on by this younger guy, and I ate it up.
Yeah.
A shell of a person. And when he confronted me with it, because he did before he passed, I didn't deny it.
Yeah.
I had said to him, I said, what are you going to do when some man gives me attention and you're sitting here, I told him, I asked him, what are you going to do when that happens? He couldn't say anything because he was just not, I think he wanted to kill himself at that point, which is a whole other conversation. But these are different dynamics of cheating that I've dealt with and that I've done myself. And I just know that, like, I was just a shell of a human being just taking care of this other person who wasn't taking care of themselves. And it's just like, we need affection. We need love, you know?
Right. Yeah. We're all searching for intimacy at some level, whether it be physical, but emotional, intellectual, experiential. And it's interesting to hear that you somehow had the bandwidth to forgive, even once you discovered lies and all. And that says a lot for you in terms of your willingness to accept people who aren't perfect. The people have flaws.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's really powerful. And it's also part of your own, not just you, I'm not trying to analyze you here, but our own ability to accept that we're not perfect, so that we can really be honest when we look in the mirror and say, what should I be doing differently? Is there something I should be doing differently? And the answer may be no, but it's still important that you go through that exercise of looking inward and not listening to feedback from other people also, but really making decisions. Am I happy? Am I getting what I need? Am I experiencing closeness to people? And that's the challenge. What I also heard in your stories, and you didn't get hung up on details.
No.
Typically, when couples come in, they're like, I want to know how many times you slept together, how much money you spent, what did you eat for dinner that Thursday night? I mean, they get really enmeshed in it, and I get it. They're just trying to wrap their head around it, and they're so ticked, and they don't really know what else to say. And so the book really is about, how do you say more than just the words, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
That's not enough. I mean, it's something, but it's not enough. What are you sorry for? And so you have to, I'm sorry for, and that's when your empathy comes in, all the pain and hurt, shock, scars I'm leaving. But I'm also sorry for not making our relationship different.
Yeah.
Not saying out loud what I'm missing or what, we need to work on. It's so interesting that people can cohabitate and function without really connecting, without really saying, here's what I need.
There you go. That's the key part, connecting with your partner, like that's so important. And I think that connection, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, like having some form of connection and either of those realms is very important to prevent infidelity, right? Had Rich, his name was Rich, had he not killed himself with steroids, I mean, his body was septic at the point where he died in the hospital. But, had he not done the steroids, I think he still would be here today. Had he been more alive and was able to talk to me and connect with me, like, we never had I had no interest ever in our marriage but it was like I had nobody. I was like a flower that was dying that needed water. And then all of a sudden, I got this young guy pouring water on me. I was like, "Whoa, I'm alive again."
Well, that's the other interesting part of affairs. Some people have this label: once a cheater, always a cheater, and therefore you're looking always for the next hookup. And sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you're in the right place or wrong place, however you want to perceive it. And this other person walks in, and you're just open to it for whatever reason. And there's some, when they do some research, like who is more likely to have a failed marriage. And it's a lot about your expectation, your determination ahead of time, that you're committed, that you're in it, that you'll do it. But, life does happen. And, it's so easy to judge. It's so easy to point fingers. And I think that's what's pertinent about the title of this podcast. There is a label, a stigma to the label of being a cheater, an adulterer. And it's like a balancing act. You got to weirdly embrace some of it that I did. But at the same time, that's maybe what I did, not who I am and who I will be.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the hope of growth. We all want to learn from our mistakes. We all want to learn how to be different. And that's the focus of this book.
Do you think that if someone, say, like somebody's listening, if you guys are listening out there, and maybe unfortunately this is happening in your relationship, your marriage, whatever, do you think that this book would help them overcome the infidelity in their relationship?
Yeah, because I think, again, back to the defenses, that when we're in the middle of an affair, we're having fun and everything is fine, not getting caught yet. We are not looking up. We are not looking around to say, ooh, wait, what am I doing? And so I did pick up the book, and that meant you were ready to self-examine. I call it navel gazing, looking inward, because that's the hope, that you spend some time, and that's honestly, I doubt many of the cheaters are running to the bookstore to buy it. I'm guessing mostly there's significant other is buying it for them and showing it to them. So it's tough work, and it's not a one and done read. It's like a process. I want you to spend time on each chapter, do some exercises, do some reflection, and figure out, with the ultimate goal of how to say more than I'm sorry, how to explain, what they've learned about themselves. That's part of your apology. Mm-hmm. Here's what I know now about me. I was selfish. I was self-absorbed. I was thrill-seeking. I was lonely. Whatever it is that you've learned about yourself helps then the other person have more empathy for you.
Yeah. If they're willing to listen, though, they have to be willing to listen, They have to be willing I don't think that I would never label someone a cheater. I just wouldn't, because I believe what I've been through, there's something else going on. There is a deeper issue that causes someone to do that, at least in my situation that I've experienced, that there was something else going on, and it wasn't just that we were out just looking for fun. There was a missing piece that needed to be filled. There was a gap that was open. So I love it. I think this is great. So where can people find you, connect with you, and purchase this book?
All right. My website's Dr. Deb Miller, drdebmiller.com.
Perfect. Any social media?
Not really. I am semi-retired. I wrote this book during COVID, and I just really want this to get out there. It's very affordable, and you can find my website a little more about me.
What are you hoping people can get from the book? What is your hope for it? If someone buys it, what do you hope happens for them in their life?
Well, I hope that they get intimacy. I hope that they get their emotional, physical needs met. By being in a relationship that's open, that's honest, that's authentic. And I hope that people, again, don't absorb the label of cheater, adulterer, and they'll either shut down and not try and just continue to perpetuate that label, or they will grow from it and learn how to be different and how to shed that negative label.
Beautiful. You guys, I'm going to put her link in the show notes. So if you connected with her book, her story, what she's wanting to help for you guys to learn or to get from the book, don't hesitate to click the link, go purchase the book, go learn a little bit more about her. And we hope that you deepen your relationship with your significant other, especially if there has been some infidelity. Dr. Deb, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
That I just challenge you, the listeners, to embrace growth, to embrace change, to embrace accepting that any mistakes or sins you made today doesn't have to define you.
Absolutely. Yes. Very well put. Thank you, Dr. Deb, for all the work that you have done and that are going to continue to do with your book. Leaving your legacy with this world is a beautiful thing. So we appreciate you.
Thank you, Deanna. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, follow, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.